Hi, I'm Anne. Welcome to Elizabeth Ann Reads, and I'm here to tell you a little story. It was April of 2015. I was living in Mexico, and I was sitting in my little trailer one weekend, and I got to thinking, I wonder if there are readathons for adults. Like, I remember readathons as a kid. I wonder if there are readathons as adults, because I want in on that. And I did a quick Google search, and lo and behold, I discovered a whole bookish community that I had no idea that they existed. That weekend, I stumbled upon Dewey's 24-hour readathon, which, if you've been around my channel at all, you know that Dewey's is my absolute favorite readathon. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. But because I searched that and because I discovered that readathon, that in turn led me to BookTube and all kinds of other things that I did not know existed. And like I said, that was 2015, 5 years ago. I did not participate in Dewey's 24-hour readathon that April because I think I found it the day of. But I did spend 6 months planning for the October 2015 readathon, which I did participate in, and I've participated ever since, which makes this coming weekend, my 10th Dewey's 24-hour readathon. So if you are unfamiliar with Dewey's, I will of course link their website below, but it is a pretty basic, a 24-hour readathon. The really neat thing about this is that it happens in the same 24-hour period across the world. So depending on where you are, your start time will be different. And this takes place this Saturday, April 25th. And I live on the west coast of the U.S., so it starts at 5 a.m. for me, 5 a.m. Saturday, and runs to 5 a.m. Sunday. If you live on the east coast, it'll run from 8 a.m. to 8 a.m., etc. There's a link at their website where you can go figure out what time zone you're in, so you know what time you're supposed to start. But the goal of Dewey's 24-hour readathon is very simple. It's just to read as much as you can, or more than you normally would, during that 24-hour period. You do not to read for the full 24 hours. Some people do challenge themselves to do that. You don't have to do that. You don't even have to read for 12 hours. The goal is just to set aside a day for reading. Read as much as you can, as much as you want to, more than you normally would. Make reading a priority. That may mean that you just make an effort to sit down with your kids for an hour and read with them. That may mean that you put on an audiobook instead of music in the background while you're cleaning. It's going to look a little different for everyone, but it is so much fun, and there's such a great online community. There's a group on Goodreads. There's a Facebook group. There's things on Instagram. I'm sure Twitter. I don't do Twitter, but I'm sure that's a thing too. And it's such a great, I don't know. I love it so much. So I'm here to give you just a couple tips about the readathon and my TBR, my potential TBR for the weekend. And also just talk a little bit about how it's going to look a little different this time with the way our current situation is and everyone's self-isolating, more or less. So yeah, we're just going to chat through a few of those things. So, tips. One, and I've already kind of alluded to this, you don't have to read for the full 24 hours. Figure out what this means for you. If it means you're going to set aside your afternoon, if it means you're going to take your first 2 hours of your day to sit and read, if it means you're going to sit and read with your kids, whatever it means for you, that's great. There's no rules. It's a very simple, straightforward, it's just a day set aside for reading. So figure out what that's going to look like for you and go with that. It doesn't have to be the same as it looks for me or the same as it looks for your best friend or, the blogger that you follow. It doesn't always have to look the same or ever have to look the same. Figure out what works for you and how you can most enjoy the day. My tip number 2 is just to figure out what books work for you during a 24-hour readathon. Again, everyone's a little bit different. And like I said, this is my 10th one, so there was definitely some trial and error at the beginning. I think my first readathon, I tried to do like an intense fantasy and a fairly in-depth mystery. Neither of those were good choices. For me, I like to stick with lighter things, and not necessarily lighter, but things that are going to read quickly. They can be thrillers, they can be like middle grade is often a good choice. A lot of people do graphic novels. I'm not super big into graphic novels, but something that's going to kind of keep you engaged and keep you moving fairly quickly through the book. That's what works for me. I know some people like to pick one really thick book and just get lost in it for the whole day. that doesn't work for me. I like to have a few things that I kind of switch between. But again, it's kind of trial and error. So if this is your first one, give yourself some grace and just figure it out as you go. That being said, don't hesitate to put a book down if it's not working for you. Even if it's a great book doesn't necessarily mean it's a great readathon book. There's two different things there. So put a book down. You can DNF a book, that's fine. Or you can just put it down and say, I'm going to pick it up next week after the readathon's over. It's not working for me today. And don't beat yourself up about that. Find what's working for you in the moment. And then my last tip, and this seems a little silly, but it's just to make an event of it. Anticipating the 24-hour readathon is one of the best parts. Like, it happens twice a year, and I spend weeks mentally preparing myself for the readathon. I get so excited. I spend so much time looking at books and trying to find books that I think are going to be just perfect, and requesting them from the library and making a stack and going to the store and getting special snacks and just making it a thing. So it's because I spend a lot of my weekends reading, but I make an effort to make this different and kind of stand out. And then it's easier for me to focus on reading because I've planned for it and I've mentally prepared for it. So that I really can just sit there and read for hours. I do not make it the full 24 hours. I cannot go that long without sleep. I generally aim for about 20. But still, if I don't mentally prepare myself, I won't even make it to 20. I'll get distracted. So make an event of it. Get yourself some good snacks. Just have fun. So preparing for the readathon this year has been a little bit different. I'm sure you're aware of this. Most libraries are closed. My library is closed. Even ordering from Amazon is taking a lot longer than usual. So unless you planned way far ahead, you're not necessarily going to get books if you order them. So yeah, I've had to do more pulling from my shelves and what I already had on hand, which is fine. I have lots and lots of books on hand. I have over 200 books on my TBR shelf. Plus, right before our library closed, it was middle grade March, and I had pulled like 50 books out from the library, and I still have at least half of those that I haven't read yet. So I have plenty of options here at home, and I've put together a potential TBR. We're going to call it a possibility pile. I watch someone else that calls their TBR a possibility pile, and I like that better. So I have a possibility pile. I am not married to this stack. If I decide it's not working, we'll pull something else off my shelves. But these are the books that I am kind of leaning toward right now. I have 7 on my pile. I usually read 4 to 5, but I like to have options. Usually I have 10 to 15 options, so 7's actually pretty low, but again, I can just pull from my shelf if these aren't working for me. Okay, so I did put a couple rereads on the stack. It is very possible I will pull other rereads as well, because it's just a good time for cozy, familiar books. The 2 rereads that I do have already on my stack, the first is The Case of the Left-Handed Lady by Nancy Springer. This is book 2 in the Enola Holmes mystery series. This is a old middle grade young YA mystery series that follows the kid sister of Sherlock Holmes. I've talked about this series a lot lately, so I'm not going to go into it, but I've been rereading it for the 3rd or 4th time. And this is book 2, so that's going on the stack. And then I also have Beauty by Robin McKinley, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which is just, if you haven't read this, you should. It's just very cozy and just, it's such a great book. So this is also probably young YA, middle grade YA, but it's a great, great retelling. Then while we're in the middle grade category, I also have Babe, the Gallant Pig by Dick King-Smith. This is, of course, what the movie Babe is based off of, which I have seen. I've never read the book, and this looks like a fun, quick read. I always like something like this to kind of mix in with everything else, so I have that. Then I have a couple books that I picked up a while ago, kind of with this readathon in mind. I'd gotten them and kind of set them aside for this readathon, so these 2 are kind of high on the priority list. The first is The Passengers by John Mars. This is a thriller. I don't know much about it, but I believe it has to do with like smart cars that kind of take over and start killing their passengers. I read another book by John Mars during a readathon last year, and it was such a great readathon book. It just moved so quickly. The chapters are nice and short, and it just moved really quickly. And so I thought this would be a great one to have on hand for this readathon. And then I have a new release that I had pre-ordered. And this is The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your House by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Craner. This is a Welcome to Night Vale novel, which one has an amazing cover. Welcome to Night Vale is a podcast, if you're unfamiliar with it. It's very odd. Think like Twin Peaks or Eureka, if you've seen either of those shows, like those kinds of things, only odder. It deals with this kind of isolated community and all the weird things that happen in there. This is the third book in the book series. I would recommend, if you're curious about this, if you like things that are kind of odd, I would go listen to an episode of the podcast first and see if it appeals to you, because these are very much like the podcast. But anyway, this is the brand new one that I have, that I had pre-ordered. And yeah, I'm hoping to get to this one. The other things I'm thinking about tentatively for Saturday are Sarah Addison Allen, Lost Lake. This is a contemporary with just a hint of magical realism. There's some romance in there, but her Sarah Addison Allen's books tend to be very heavy on just family and like sisters and connection within family, and the romance is part of that as well. And then there's always just a little hint of magic in them, and they're just fun, light, quick reads, and I thought this would be good in the mix. And then the last thing I have on my possibility pile, at least as of today, is Dry by Neil Shusterman. This is I don't think post-apocalyptic is correct, but kind of an end-of-the-world type, basically what happens when there's an extreme drought in California and the results of that, and how people act, which I know some people are kind of avoiding books like this right now. I thought it would be kind of fun to read right now. We'll see if I get to it or not. So those are the 7 books that are kind of high on my radar. As of right now, again, this could change by Saturday. I could decide that none of these books appeal to me on Saturday and pick something completely different. But those are the ones I'm thinking about for now. And yeah, I highly, highly encourage you to check out the 24-hour readathon and participate. Again, it is just, I just love it so much. It's so much fun. I love the anticipation that goes into it. And for me, at least, the planning is a huge part of the fun. Even though the planning has been a little different this year, I'm still going to go to the store and get my yummy snacks. And I'm still going to just have a great time reading whatever I have on hand. So anyway, again, I'll link that website below. Be sure and go check it out. And let me know if you're participating so I can cheer you on. And that is it for today. Thank you for watching.